Hello, everybody. I wanted to get into the Sustainable Development Goals, specifically the Zero Hunger, and why it correlates with the synthetic food agenda, which correlates with global warming, etc. So, really, I want to break it down because most people don't understand why United Nations is not only trying to, figure out a way to end world hunger, but these scientists also want to figure out how to prepare for a famine. So, without further ado, I guess I'm gonna break it down. Because this is why you see scientists pushing the concept of this synthetic food, specifically while global warming is starting to kick off. This is because these scientists know that one of the only ways to combat world hunger is to have a synthetic food source. We have been exposed to this synthetic food source and it has been tested on us. This is why, over time, this past 20 years, the food has become more and more chemical, more and more synthetic. Because not only is it are we gonna be forced to eat this at some point? Because scientists want to know the effects of this food on the human health to help them prepare. Because let's be real, synthetic food is completely different than natural food, and we can see the effects of this synthetic food. So scientists kind of want to be able to prepare for all of that.
Climate change can have significant effects on food security and nutrition, both directly and indirectly. Here are some of the ways in which climate change can impact food security and nutrition. Changes in crop yields. Climate change can result in changes in crop yields due to changes in temperature and precipitation patterns, increased frequency and severity of extreme weather events, and altered growing seasons. These changes can result in decreased food production, reducing food availability and accessibility, and increasing food prices. Food quality. Climate change can also affect the quality of food, as changes in temperature and precipitation can alter the composition and nutritional value of crops. This can result in decreased food quality, reducing the nutritional value of diets, and increasing the risk of micronutrient deficiencies. Access to food. Climate change can also impact access to food, as changes in temperature and precipitation patterns can affect the ability of individuals and communities to grow and harvest crops, and transport and distribute food. This can result in food shortages, reducing food access and increasing food insecurity. Livestock production. Climate change can also affect livestock production, as changes in temperature and precipitation patterns can affect feed availability and quality, and increase the risk of diseases and parasites in livestock. This can result in reduced livestock production, reducing the availability of meat and dairy products, and increasing food insecurity. In conclusion, climate change has the potential to significantly impact food security and nutrition, both directly and indirectly, by affecting crop yields, food quality, access to food, and livestock production. Addressing the impacts of climate change on food security and nutrition requires multi-sectoral and integrated approaches, including sustainable agriculture and food systems, disaster risk reduction, and social protection programs, to ensure that individuals and communities have access to adequate, nutritious, and sustainable diets.
And to me, it's pretty much no surprise that this food receives approval, right, as the climate change starts to kick up, which to me is pretty much showing that this does have to do with the fact that a famine may be coming by the year 2030. Of course, that is just speculation, but judging by statistics, it could happen, I guess. So, yeah. And scientists will even admit themselves that part of the reason they want to develop this food is due to food insecurity. So obviously I'm not just making this up. Obviously there is a sort of need or a sort of reason for this synthetic food being developed and pushed so heavily. And part of the reason that this food is being developed is because if you look at celestial events like solar cycle 25, solar cycle 26, or you look at Apophis, the asteroid, or you look at the rising waters, rising sea levels, all of this stuff affects crops, and it affects the crop's abilities to grow. So essentially, lots of the stuff that we see going on could potentially trigger a global famine, which ultimately brings us back to why the synthetic food is being developed. Because if you look at certain scriptures, it talks about how asteroids will hit Earth and how the Earth will stop producing food, or how there will be famines at certain points in time. And if you look at history, there were famines, global famines at certain point in times. So basically, when you look at it, scientists are worried that a celestial event could trigger a famine, which could potentially cause hunger problems, which is the SDG, ending world hunger, which is what this video is about. So as y'all can tell, I'm correlating the whole ending world hunger thing with the synthetic food agenda, because if you look at the climate change that is due to start happening around 2030, these scientists will need a solution for this climate change. And I know this is a bit of a longer video. I know that I'm breaking down a lot more than usual, but at this point the information does have to be broken down. It does have to be correlated, and essentially there's no holding back. I'm going to word it as scientific as possible. I'm going to provide sources because I already know how the haters are. I already know they like to complain if you're not quote unquote scientifically accurate. So all I'm here to do is provide all the science and all the truth, all the evidence that nobody can refute, because your own scientists are admitting it themselves. This is the USDA. These are government websites, and these are government sources that I am using. Therefore, everything you're seeing in this video is 100% legit. And another thing people don't really get is why there is already so much synthetic food in our diets. People don't realize that there's already a ton of filler in our diets. If you look at the amount of actual natural food in America, it's probably a very low number. That's because there is already somewhat of famine on the earth. And if you look at inflation, it's already getting to a point to where lots of the food is going up in price. So there's this transition where there used to be a lot of food, and it's transitioning to where all that food that niggas used to throw away, all that food that fast food restaurants used to waste, all that food that fast food restaurants used to count as waste, well, guess what? Now your ass is paying double to triple, and at some point probably more than quadruple for that food that was wasted all those years. And it isn't only one book that talks about famine being a result of wastefulness. It is a whole list of books from all different types of cultures around the world, which is why scientists are very fearful of the fact that we may have to rely on synthetic food. Because majority of the people I know don't realize they're already eating a whole bunch of filler due to the lack of natural food.